Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown,
the unofficial sumo podcast
for official sumo fans. Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is Ryan.
This is Jake.
And this is going to be our Banzuke preview for the Natsu Basho. But we do need to apologize for something that we said on the recap of the Haru Basho. Something that we said was very disturbing to some listeners of the podcast.
Yeah, we got an email from our listener, Glenn. It's heartbreaking, but I think it'd probably be best to just read it on the podcast here, you think?
Yeah, just air all of our dirty laundry.
So, we did talk a lot about how Takayasu kind of blew it at the end of the last tournament here. So, apparently the insensitive way that we covered it, we got called out. So, anyways, here's what our listener Glenn sent us. So it is it's a beautiful Easter weekend. Big difference there. And I'm outside doing yard work in what I consider a safe place, listening to an outstanding sumo podcast during a safe time between the Super Bowl and the NFL draft. Next thing I know, I fall into my knees and I'm weeping unconsolably. My wife eventually rushes over and asks me what is wrong. Gary Anderson, 1998 championship game is all I'm able to say. Please start putting trigger warnings in your episode descriptions so those of us affected by SVD, seasonal Vikings disorder, can avoid unnecessary distress and mental trauma. Yes, the description did mention Jake coping with choking, so in hindsight it may have been inevitable that the comparison would come up, but that is not adequate transparency when dealing with this serious condition. So to all of our listeners who, like me and Ryan, actually suffer from SVD, we do wholeheartedly apologize, and we'll make sure to give you warnings before we talk about anything Vikings related on the show ever again.
Yeah, I think right now should just be your whole blanket warning. At any time, Vikings could come up because the heartbreak is so prevalent. And yeah, censor your screen there, Jake.
I can't quite cover my Vikings banner with the drapes.
For the sake of all Vikings fans, we will swiftly move on and start talking about the matter at hand, and that is my prediction for the Natsu
my ridicule.
Banzuke. Yeah. So we start as always with the Yokozuna, and it's a lonely Yokozuna that we have now because it is just going to be Hakuho with the retirement of Kakuryu. So we're going to have one less member in the sanyaku ranks, which means last time we didn't have a Mygashira 17 slot. We're going to have a Mygashira 17 again in this Basho. We did have a question come up since we already basically know Hakuho is not going to be participating in the Natsu Basho. Somebody asked, is he going to show up on the Banzuke since prior to the Banzuke being created, we know he's not going to be there. And the answer is yes, he will show up on the Banzuke. You only drop off the Banzuke after you are Intai, like Kakuryu retired, or you have not competed for long enough that your ranked record would drop you out of the Jono-Kuchi division. You see sometimes a lot of injured Rikishi will come back in Jono-Kuchi to wrestle one match just so that their name stays on the Banzuke. But basically, as long as you're not in danger of completely dropping off the bottom of the Banzuke, you're going to be on your.
This is a lot stranger when I'm the only one here and Ryan is going robot. Dear listener,
I'm back.
Oh, hey, nice of you to join us.
Yeah.
Now that Robot Ryan has returned, you were going to bring up your example of...
Yes. So Abi, he was suspended for 3 tournaments, despite knowing he was not going to compete for those 3 tournaments. He was still on the Banzuke. He just shows up as 0-15 for 15 absences. So unless you're in danger of falling off the bottom of Jono-Kuchi, you will show up on the Banzuke. But let's move down to the ozeki ranks, where we're going to have 4 ozeki for the first time, probably since Fuji dropped. We have 4 ozeki.
2017, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So your top-ranked ozeki is going to be Asanoyama. He had the best record of the ozeki in the previous basho and was ranked ahead of Takakeisho, who also had a 10-5 record. So Takakeisho is going to be your ozeki West 1. Shodai is going to be your ozeki East 2. He is going to be ahead of Fuji because despite him, Fuji having the best record of the 4 in the previous tournament, a newly promoted ozeki will always be the lowest ranked ozeki, even if it's your second or third stint at ozeki, as we saw with Tochinoshin and Takakeisho whenever they got repromoted back to the bottom ranked ozeki. Down to Sekiwake, and it should be pretty straightforward from here on out in the Sanyaku ranks. Takanosho had a winning record at Sekiwake West, so he should just slide over to the east side to occupy the spot vacated by the promoted Fuji. Takayasu, having a winning record from the east Komosubi slot, should just be promoted up to Sekiwake West. So there could be a question as to what order those two will be in. We saw back in November, Fuji went 13-2 and Takanosho was 8-7. That's when Fuji was ranked Komosubi and Takanosho was Sekiwake West. And in the next basho, Fuji was Sekiwake East and Takanosho was still Sekiwake West. I think that's more of an exception than it is a rule. So I think with just a 10-5 record, Takayasu will still be ranked behind Takanosho in the next Banzuke.
I think that's treason.
I mean, yeah, the guy was 10-5 again. He fought such amazing people such as Fuji, who won the Yusho. Why wouldn't Takayasu get consideration for ozeki, having fought Fuji? Sorry, I'm a little distracted. Daddy Longlegs literally just dropped down right in front of my face.
Yeah, I can't tell exactly if you're being sarcastic or what. I think you kind of went off the rails a little.
Nope, it's dead now. Sorry.
But yes, no, I think anything short of putting Takayasu as an ozeki is just foolish.
Well,
I'm not biased whatsoever.
Prepare for vast amounts of disappointment in your future.
For years to come, yes, yeah. I'm aware.
And yes, the Daddy Longlegs is very much dead now.
Is there just like a Daddy Smushed Legs on the wall above your computer now?
Yeah, and I'm going to leave it there as a warning to all other Daddy Longlegs to stay out of my house.
How awesome is that as a nickname for that animal?
Daddy Longlegs, that is really cool.
It's just the best.
Yeah. At the Komosubi rank, this will be even easier than Sekiwake. Mitake Yumi had an 8-7 record, so he's going to slide over from Komosubi West to Komosubi East. And Daisho also had an 8-7 record, so he's going to move up from Komosubi 2 to Komosubi 1 West to take Mitake Yumi's old spot. Pretty cut and dry there. Nothing really to argue about.
Yeah, it's good that Fuji's being bumped up to ozeki, because otherwise it would have been kind of awkward to like leave an extra Komosubi slot on there just for some 8-7s.
Yeah, which is what we would have had to do. I don't think Takayasu would have been promoted up to Sekiwake with the 10-5. So yeah, we just would have had 3 Komosubi again.
Would have been weird, but yeah. So we're back to 1 Yokozuna, 4 ozeki, and then the proper 2 Sekiwake and Komosubi each.
Yep, total of 9 Rikishi in the Sanyaku ranks. So then we go to the Zone of Death, and it's a rather crowded and probably angry bunch at the top of the Zone of Death, because we have 3 guys that, based on their rank or record, could easily have been in the Sanyaku ranks had everybody in the Sanyaku ranks not had a winning record, with the exception of Shodai, but Shodai was an ozeki, so he gets to stay at that rank. So at Mygashira 1 East, I've got Wakataka Kage going there, and at Mygashira 1 West, we have Hokudofuji. So both of those guys and Meisei are... Wakataka Kage had a 10-5, Hokudofuji had a 9-6, and Meisei had a 10-5, all from Maigashira 3 or up. We previously might have thought some of those, maybe just Wakataka Kage, could have created a new Komosubi slot, but after the precedent set by Daisho when he had a 10-5 record from Maigashira 2 in November, and as we all know, we complained that he only got promoted to Maigashira 1, we can really assume that they're going to do the exact same thing here and not create a new Komosubi slot to accommodate any of these guys. So Wakataka Kage was ranked behind Hokudofuji before, because Wakataka Kage was Maigashira 2 West, Hokudofuji was Maigashira 2 East. But since Wakataka Kage did have one more win, I do think he will vault over Hokudofuji here. And this really just continues a string of bad luck that Hokudofuji's had his entire career, where he gets good records in the sanyaku ranks and deserves to join the sanyaku ranks. And he's been Komusubi a couple of times, but he should have been Komusubi a lot more times at this point. And he just keeps getting denied because there's people like Mitake Yumi who are just good enough to hold on to their rank. But just a few examples. In Kyushu of 2017, Hokudofuji got an 11-4 record for Maigashira 3, only ended up at Maigashira 1 in the next basho. He's had a 9-6 record for Maigashira 1 West and only got moved over to Maigashira 1 East in the next basho. He had another 11-4 at Maigashira 4, which easily could have shot him up to Komusubi or Sekiwake had the cards landed right for him, but they didn't. And then this one again, 9-6 record at Maigashira 2 East. Very easily could have ended up in the sanyaku ranks, but it was not in the cards for him, unfortunately. So a lot of bad luck for Hokudofuji the past few years.
Yeah, I was looking through his record, and I'm glad he's hit Komusubi a couple times, because that was just a depressing list.
Yeah, he's gotten there a couple times. He squandered both opportunities. Hopefully the next time he will do something better with it. But let's move down to Maigashira 2, where on the east side, I do have Meisei just jumping up one rank from Maigashira 3 to Maigashira 2 after a 10-5 record and a special prize. But then we get somebody who deserves a big jump, and that's Tobizaru. He also had a 10-5 rank, but he gets a jump of 6 ranks from Maigashira 8. So that leads us to Maigashira 3, where this is where the issues of this Banzuke are going to start to come through. Because between the ranks of Maigashira 3 West and Maigashira 8 East, nobody had a winning record. So that's 10 Rikishi in a row that had a losing record. And so obviously this is going to create a vacuum where we need to start over-promoting and under-demoting some Rikishi.
Including both Maigashira 1, who had terrible records.
Yeah.
So they can't be minorly demoted to this region either, really.
Yeah, Takara Fuji had a 3-12 record for Maigashira 1, and Onosho was 4-11 for Maigashira 1. So we can't really start considering them for the Maigashira 3 rank. And so, the next person that deserves to be ranked is Aoyama, who went 11-4 from Maigashira 12. If you look at, their record and how much you'd expect them to be promoted versus their rank, Aoyama's the next guy on that list. Now, he should have been Maigashira 5, so it's not too terrible of a stretch to bring him up to Maigashira 3 on the east side, which is where I have him landing, but it's Maigashira 3 West where things really start to get hairy, because there isn't anyone left that had a winning record that deserves to be any higher than Maigashira 8, and we need to fill a slot at Maigashira 3, where the only people who are dropping need to drop farther than Maigashira 3. So what we have to do is we've got to bring up Chiyo no Kuni 6 ranks for an 8-7 record at Maigashira 9.
What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to start pulling from a pool of people that deserve to be Maigashira 8 to fill up these next few spots. And we're only at Maigashira 3. So moving on to our final slot of the Joy, Maigashira 4 East, I've got Kiribayama. So this is going to be a very similar situation. This is actually kind of pretty similar to the previous Banzuke, where there's just an absolute dearth of Rikishi that could be promoted to this section of the Banzuke. But we got really lucky in that Kiribayama and Miyogiryu both went 7-8 at Maigashira 4. Very similar to what happened with Endo and Oki no Umi at Maigashira 5, the previous basho. They went 7-8, and so they just stayed at that rank. So that's what we're going to be doing with Kiribayama here at Maigashira 4 East.
And normally we'd say the Joy cuts off at Kiribayama, but we already know Hakuho is out, so Miyogiryu makes up the 16th Rikishi that will make up the Joy.
Yep, that's correct. And we know that Takakeisho and Takanosho can't face each other, so even Maigashira 5 East could pick up a couple of matches against the Sanyaku Rikishi. So yeah, Maigashira 4 West, Miyogiryu is going to, I think he will be sticking at the same rank he was previously due to his 7-8 record. Then we slide down to Maigashira 5 East, where I do have Onosho landing here. He's another guy that deserves to be ranked Maigashira 8. But because the next candidate available for promotion is Hoshoryu from Maigashira 9 with an 8-7 record, we already pulled up Chiyo no Kuni, 6 ranks from Maigashira 9 with an 8-7 record, so could be Hoshoryu over Onosho here, but I'm going to go with Onosho ahead of Hoshoryu because just joy bias for Onosho being ranked ahead of Hoshoryu previously. And typically I'd kind of hem and haw about only dropping a Rikishi that went 4-11, 4 slots. But honestly, it's been happening a lot recently. And we even had Tochinoshin only drop 3 ranks after a 4-11 record last Basho. So dropping Onosho only 4 ranks to Maigashira 5 really doesn't scare me.
You can live with it.
Yeah. And I kind of offhandedly mentioned it, but Maigashira 5 West, I do have Hoshoryu landing there. But we do have to start considering a wild card in all this, and that is Hide no Umi. He is the last guy remaining that had 10 or more wins. And so his promotion is probably going to be a little bit greater than usual to try to fill up a gap in this portion of the Banzuke. I don't think he's going to be jumping up quite this high. I don't think he'll jump over Hoshoryu, because if you just look at their ranks and records individually, a 10-5 record from Maigashira 15 probably isn't going to trump an 8-7 record from Maigashira 9. We have seen 2 instances in the not so recent past, I think back in the 90s, where a 10-5 record from Maigashira 15 resulted in a promotion all the way up to Maigashira 4. So it is a possibility that we need to look out for, but I don't think Hide no Umi is quite going to be landing yet. Then at Maigashira 6 on the east side, we're going to be dropping Shimano Umi here. So we can no longer pull from the pool of Rikishi that deserve to be Maigashira 8. There's still one Rikishi there, but he had a losing record from Maigashira like 7 or something. So we can't pull him up to Maigashira 6. So now we need to go to the pool of Rikishi that deserve to be Maigashira 10. Of which only 3 are eligible to be ranked here at Maigashira 6. So I'll go with Shimano Umi at Maigashira 6 East. It's either going to be him, Takara Fuji, who is 3-12 for Maigashira 1, or, like I said, the wild card Hide no Umi. There is precedent for Takara Fuji to drop only 5 ranks after a 3-12 record, but none that is very recent at all. And I think with Shimano Umi having one more win, being ranked in the Joy alongside of Takara Fuji, so neither would get the bias of being in the Joy over the other, and both of them deserving to be at the same rank when you look at their record. I go with Shimano Umi, who had the more wins over Takara Fuji, who was ranked higher. Plus, we know that for an 11 Rikishi can drop only 3 ranks after Tochinoshin did the previous Basho. So I've got Shimano Umi only falling from Maigashira 3 to Maigashira 6 after a 4-11 record. I'm not going with Hide no Umi here, the wild card, just because joy bias. I think that'll factor in here. I just can't see them launching Maigashira 15 ahead of like a Maigashira 1 or 3 at this point. And then at Maigashira 6 West, we've got another Rikishi who was 7-8. So going to keep Ichinojo at Maigashira 6 West for the next Basho to kind of help stop the bleeding of pulling people so far up or dropping people not nearly as far as they should drop.
There are so few of those 7 and 8s to like give you that little cheater there.
We actually have 4 in this area because the next rank, Maigashira 7 East, Tochinoshin, he went 7-8, so I'm going to keep him there as well. So getting 4 in there is actually pretty helpful. Otherwise,
are you counting like Kiribayama and Miyogiri, you mean?
Yeah, them too.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. So that helps significantly. If like those guys had like 6 and 9 records, I don't even want to know what this Banzuke would look like. It'd be horrendous, even more so than it already is. But yeah, so I've got Tochinoshin as our last stopgap guy here because I think he's going to stay put after that 7-8 record. And so Maigashira 7 West, this is where I've got our wild card Hide no Umi landing. This is one of my spots where I'm most conflicted on who I think should go here. Part of me really wants to put Takara Fuji here, but I did dig into some recent precedent to see kind of would a 10-5 record all the way down from Maigashira 15 really take precedence over a 3-12 record from Maigashira 1. It's always hard to tell kind of those huge record gaps and huge rank gaps, how they'll interact with each other on the Banzuke. But I did find a fairly similar situation from just back in 2014. So in 2014, Endo was ranked Maigashira 1 and had a 3-12 record, and Oki no Umi was 10-5 from Maigashira 15. In that situation, on the next Basho, Oki no Umi ended up being ranked Maigashira 7, where I have Hide no Umi landing, and Endo was ranked at Maigashira 8 in the next Basho, where I will have Takara Fuji landing. So that precedent was enough for me to say, okay, yep, I'm going to go with Hide no Umi jumping over Takara Fuji here.
Fair enough.
So at Maigashira 8 East, I do have Takara Fuji landing. And you know what? This is really all for the best because I'm not one to argue with recent history. And the last 5 Maigashira 1 Rikishi that went 3-12 all ended up at Maigashira 8, starting with the aforementioned 2014 Basho with Endo. So let's just make it a solid 6 in a row. Let's just put Takara Fuji here and be happy with it.
You just guaranteed that it will not happen somehow.
Yeah, I know. They're going to do something. I mean, it wouldn't be stupid if they put Takara Fuji at Maigashira 7 and drop down Hide no Umi. But now that I have put this in stone, it's absolutely the wrong move to do. And how dare you destroy such a beautiful streak like that? I'm pre-angry for the decision that they're going to make. Yeah. Well, they've already made the decision. We just don't know what it is yet.
Right, yeah. They do that like within the first like couple days, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's literally the week after the Basho. And then at Maigashira 8 on the west side, I have Kagayaki dropping 2 spots from Maigashira 6 after a 6-9 record. I almost put present day Endo at this rank, not 2014 Endo, who we've talked about, but present day Endo, because Endo was previously ranked higher. Both of these guys are in the pool of Rikishi that deserve to be Maigashira 10, and we're talking about them at Maigashira 8 now, so things are starting to look a little bit better. Neither one was in the Joy, so neither one would get precedent over the other, but Kagayaki had the better record between the two of them, so I give him the nod to be ranked ahead of Endo. Plus, Kagayaki is really second only in Banzuke luck to Mygashira, so he's definitely going to be ahead of Endo here. If there's a coin flip between two people, and Mygashira or Kagayaki are one of those people, go with Mygashira or Kagayaki. Because we talked about the amazing luck that Mygashira's had over the past, it'll be 3 Basho now, because I think it was like November, he was at Maigashira 5. He's now had like 3 straight losing records, or like 1 winning record and 2 losing records, but he's overall been promoted 1 rank or something like that.
Yeah, so at Maigashira 5, he went 4-11, only went down to Maigashira 9, got an 8-7, and got back up higher than he started at Maigashira 4.
Yeah, and now he's had another losing record, and will more than likely stay at that same rank.
So he'll have 3 Makikoshis and 1 8-7, and he will have stayed in the same spot.
Yeah. Miyagiri's just the luckiest bastard. So let's move to Maigashira 9, where on the east side I do have Endo, and this is our first kind of easy pick that we've had since probably Aoyama at Maigashira 3 East. He's clearly the next guy that needs to be ranked. So got him slotting in at Maigashira 9 East, I think, fairly easily. And then at Maigashira 9 West, we've got a group of 3 Rikishi that I think could end up here. Tsurugisho, Tamawashi, and Koto no Waka. Since Tsurugisho had the best record among the 3 of them and the only winning record among the 3 of them, I have him taking the tiebreaker ahead of Tamawashi and Koto no Waka. So I've got him jumping up, I believe, 5 ranks after a 9-6 record for Maigashira 14 to land ahead of Tamawashi and Koto no Waka. So then we move to our double-digit Mygashira ranks at the bottom of the Banzuke, and Mygashira 10. This is where we will have the aforementioned Tamawashi and Koto no Waka. Things are really starting to level out here for us. Both of these guys deserve to be ranked Maigashira 11. They're the only two that deserve to be ranked Maigashira 11, so we're not under-demoting them here barely at all. So it's very clear that these two guys are going to be at Maigashira 10. Koto no Waka ultimately going to be dropping 2 slots after a 6 and 9 record, and Tamawashi 4 slots after a 5 and 10 record. Maigashira 11, we have Teruto Yoshi on the east side and Chiyoshoma on the west side. Once again, these two guys are the only two people that deserve to be at this rank, and they were the same rank with the same record in the previous Basho, so they're just going to slide up from Maigashira 12 or Maigashira 13 to Maigashira 11 in the same order they were before. Fairly cut and dry here. Maigashira 12 on the east side, I've got Daiamami landing here, jumping up 4 ranks for Maigashira 16, and then I've got Kotoeko jumping up 2 ranks for Maigashira 14 for Kotoeko to land on the west side. But we do have another wild card in play now, and that is in No Umi. He was 3 and 12 from Maigashira 5 and really could slot in at any of the places from like Maigashira 12 to Maigashira 15. So don't really know what to do with No Umi, but I don't feel comfortable putting him in at Maigashira 12 quite yet. But he is somebody we need to watch out for, and I think someone that could just throw a wrench into things into this portion of the Banzuke. At Maigashira 13, on the east side, I have Akiseyama, and on the west side, I've got Ryuden. We're finally getting at a point in the Banzuke, really since the Sanyaku ranks, where Rikishi are going to be ranked kind of where they deserve to be. So I have Akiseyama dropping only 1 rank after a 7 and 8 record, and Ryuden dropping 3 ranks after a 6 and 9 record, which is really what we want to see in like a perfect Banzuke. So first time at Maigashira 13 that we're finally able to do that. And then Maigashira 14 on the east side, this is where I have our second wild card, No Umi, landing. And on the west side, I've got Chiyo Tairyu falling in here. So both of these guys, by their record, deserve to be Maigashira 14. I'm not moving No Umi from the spot. Like I said, I feel like he's probably going to land at like Maigashira 13 or 12, but I'm going to put him in here at Maigashira 14 because it feels like the safest spot. Just everything works out a little bit better with him here, but the way the Banzuke committee does things, they don't ever do the things that make the most sense. So I think No Umi would probably be a little bit higher, but I have him slotted in here. And then Chiyo Tairyu is going to be landing exactly where he deserves, falling 3 ranks after a 6 and 9 record. But once we get past No Umi, it's really smooth sailing from here on out. Maigashira 15 on the east side, I've got Kaisei, and on the west side, I have Midorifuji. Kaisei and Midorifuji are the only 2 guys left in the Makuuchi division that still remain to be ranked. And there's 2 other guys in Makuuchi, Yutakayama and Koto Shoho, but those guys are very clearly dropping off the Banzuke for Makuuchi. There's no real like borderline cases on this Banzuke. It's Koto Shoho and Yutakayama are dropping down, and we're going to have 3 Juryo Rikishi that come up, filling the spots of Yutakayama, Koto Shoho, and then also Kakuyu, who retired.
I think it's kind of interesting. We had a bunch of people at their career best rank. We had 5 people: Shimano Umi, Koto no Waka, Hoshoryu, Midorifuji, and Akiseyama. And all of them, except for Hoshoryu, got a losing record, and even he was only at 8 and 7.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. You're facing the toughest competition you've ever fought in your career.
And Midorifuji was also clearly hurt. I'd love to see him healthier because he's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah. Midorifuji was hurt. Akiseyama is, 35 years old and looks like he does. So what can you really expect out of him?
He looks like he's 55 years old minimum.
Yeah. Shimano Umi is also another guy that's plus 30. So yeah, not really surprising that's happened. But yeah, so Kaisei and Midorifuji at Maigashira 15. None of the Juryo Rikishi that we're going to be promoting up to Makuuchi deserve to be ranked ahead of Kaisei or Midorifuji. So Kaisei is going to be promoted 1 rank after an 8-7 record, and Midori Fuji dropping 5 ranks after a 5-10 record. Then at Maigashira 16 on the east side, I have Ishiura, and the west side, Chiyomaru. Like I said, Juryo should shake out fairly cleanly here. Ishiura should be the top-ranked guy coming from Juryo, as his 9-6 record should trump Aqua's 8-7 record from Juryo 1. And then Chiyomaru should be the next guy, because I think his 9-6 record from Juryo 3 will also trump Aqua's 8-7 record as well. And then Maigashira 17 on the east side, the only Maigashira 17 side we will have. Got Aqua falling in there. Should very easily be the bottom-ranked guy in this division. Enho's 9-6 record that he had from Juryo 4, that's not quite good enough to jump over Aqua. So Enho's probably going to be he's going to be a Juryo 1 in the next Basho, I would guess.
Yeah, and at the rate he's going, he'll be back for the next tournament in top division.
Yeah, hope so. So that is how the Natsu Banzuke should shake out. Any deviations you see on the actual Banzuke are mistakes on the Banzuke committee's part. This is a perfect Banzuke, in my opinion, and I don't think anybody could find any flaw anywhere in there.
I do think that you called out the two things that could be the weirdest, the two wild cards. Oki no Umi and Hida no Umi in particular. Takara Fuji, I think, could also potentially be lumped in there, but that was the one where there was a ton of very oddly specific precedent. Mm-hmm. Like, what was it? The last 5 Mygashira ones with a 3 and 12 went to the exact same spot.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't think that precedent necessarily is unbreakable. Obviously, each Banzuke depends on the context of all the other wrestlers on it as well. But yeah, I think those 3 guys, just like, not a particularly bold statement here, but the guys who have the most extreme records are going to have the biggest jumps or drops, and those are the hardest to predict. Yeah,
the further away you get from like an 8-7, 7-8 record, it's just so hard to predict what they're going to do with that. And
some of them are going to work out. Yeah, some of them are going to work out. Like you said, Aoyama is a pretty much a lock. I think Tobizaru is the other 10+ win guy who you're very confident in.
Yeah, those guys are fairly easy in this Banzuke because there's nobody else. Like it has to be them. But once you get like these guys with 3 and 12 records and they're like competing with 4 other guys for another rank, it's kind of hard to figure out, and it's inconsistent in the past. Like, does their previous record take precedent over who they're going to be ahead of or behind, or does their rank that they were at, is that going to take precedent over who they're ahead of and who they're behind of the group of people that they deserve to be at the same rank as? So yeah, those are the 3 guys that are going to make this difficult. So we'll see how that ends up shaking out. As we mentioned, our guys from Makuuchi dropping down to Juryo are going to be Koto Shoho, Yu Takayama, and Kakuryu jumping off the Banzuke entirely, as he is Intai. Just kind of want to look at the bottom of Makuuchi again, because I said that, there's no borderline cases for demotion down to Juryo. So of the bottom 9 Rikishi on the Banzuke, that's Maigashira 12 West Aoyama down to Maigashira 16 West Daiamami, there was only one guy that had a losing record, and that was Yu Takayama at 4-11, very clearly being demoted. And then you had Koto Shoho 1-14 from Maigashira 11, also very clear demotion cases. And then the other people with losing records in that area, Aki Sayama at Maigashira 12 with 7-8 record. No, you can't demote him.
You can't drop him 5.5 ranks from there.
Yeah, Chio Tairyu 6-9 record from Maigashira 11. No, that's not going to happen. And then you turn around and look at the top of Juryo. You had an 8-7 record from Juryo 1, a 9-6 record from Juryo 2, and another 9-6 record from Juryo 3. All very clearly going to be promoted up to Makuuchi, but there's no like pesky 12-3 from Juryo 5 that could sneak in there and try to snake a spot from somebody or cause any controversy. So this is one of the cleanest Juryo to Makuuchi transitions I think I've seen when predicting Banzukes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible that Aqua and Chiyomaru are switched.
Yeah.
But it's pretty clear that there's no obvious enough case to bump Enho up because he would be the next guy, and that just doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of spotlighted like those three spots: Takara Fuji, Oki no Umi, and Hide no Umi. If you had to choose one of those that I could get the most wrong, which one of those three would you choose?
Just because I know that you need some answer to write down, let's say let's say Oki no Umi.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the one for me too. And I mean, the last time we had a 3-12 record for Maigashira 5, it was Abi when he got suspended, and he did drop down to Maigashira 14. But for some reason, it just feels like such a huge drop to me that they wouldn't do. Even though Oki no Umi was outside of the Joy, so he's probably not going to get any preferential treatment there. And we look back just a couple basho ago, you had Toku Shoryu at Maigashira 8, who had a 3-12 record, and he dropped down like 9 or 10 ranks out of Makuuchi division entirely. But dropping down 9 ranks for Oki no Umi here is very well within recent precedent, but for some reason it just sticks out to me as the hardest one to stomach out of those.
Yeah. All in all, though, I think there's a big mess of who deserves to be where. Mm-hmm. But at least for most of it, the order of who should be above who and such that shook out okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like there's a weird wasteland in the middle of this one, but on deeper inspection, it seems to be less messy than first glance.
Yeah, I'm getting less and less scared of those deep wastelands as we get into it, just because weird things are going to happen. We've seen weird things happen, so we can better anticipate what weird things those are going to be. But I don't have anything else to say about this Banzuke besides that real quick turnaround on this one. I feel like between Hatsu and Haru, there was a very long gap between those basho starting, but it's April 6th as we're recording this, and the Banzuke is going to be released April 26th already. So that's coming around fast. The basho is going to start May 9th. Jake, you've got a bonus episode that you're prepping you want to tell people about?
Yeah, we'll probably do some twittering about it just to get some more information dug up, get some more opinions. But we're looking into some high profile injuries, not just like what happened in recent injuries, but also like what could have been done about them. That's just something that we're working on in the meantime because of the obvious Hibikiryu disaster, which I as of this recording, I still think that there's no news beyond the news from that day, which, to be fair though, like, that's medical information. That's not necessarily something that has to be public, but it would just be nice to hear that, he's, I don't know. There's some level of injury that you can come back from that looks like that on the day. And there's some level of injury that you can't come back from. And it's probably not the case that he'll ever do sumo again, but I just want to know that he's like alive, like, oh my God, it was, yeah. So yeah, we're diving into some more stuff, some more research on that. We've got a couple people with better knowledge of injuries that we're going to talk to. So there'll be some stuff on that, but like I said, we'll probably be reaching out on Twitter to see if anybody has any requests or suggestions of things that we should cover.
All right. So until then, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, your favorite podcast listening service.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all that junk. And our blog, grandsumobreakdown.wordpress.com.
Can shoot us an email at grandsumobreakdown@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 805-613-7866, 805-613-SUMO. Apologize, I don't think we're going to have a video version of this episode. Our main video editor, Mac, is in finals week for a master's class that he is taking. And as you probably
We'll let it slide this time.
Yeah, you probably noticed there are a couple of more technical hiccups on my side of things that would make editing the video very difficult for somebody, let's say me, trying to edit video for the first time. So we're gonna let that pass, and hopefully we'll get the video on the next one. So apologies on that front.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be a regular thing going forward, but at a bare minimum, we'll be doing it for our main Basho episodes for sure.
Still trying to work it in as best as we can and figure out the best way to get that done. And definitely need whatever internet issues have been befalling me the past month or so to fix themselves.
Shame.
Or I should probably do something about it.
If we complain about the problem enough and ignore it, it'll go away.
I think that's how those things work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all we got, and we'll see you later.
Thank you for listening to Grand Sumo Breakdown. Until next time, throw your salt high
And keep moving forward.